You know, when you think about it, carbon is everywhere. It's in our DNA, the food we eat, even the high-tech materials we're building our future with. It's, it's literally the scaffolding of our entire world. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? What gives this one little element all that power? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. We're going to uncover the simple, elegant rules of geometry that let carbon build, well, everything.
But to really get to carbon's secret, we've got to go back in time a bit and solve a kind of mystery. See, for most of scientific history, there was this invisible wall that split the world in two, dividing the world of the living from the world of, well, non-living stuff. So what on earth was this wall?
Turns out that wall was built entirely on a myth, an idea so powerful that for centuries, scientists believed chemistry itself was split into two totally different universes, each playing by its own set of rules.
Yeah, this was what they called the vital force era. The thinking was, and this was from big names like J.J. Berzelius, that organic compounds, molecules from plants and animals, had some kind of special non-physical spark, a vital force. And this meant you could never, ever create a molecule of life from just plain old minerals. It was impossible. The living world was seen as something almost magical, and the mineral world was just stuff.
But like any great story in science, this one has a hero and a single moment where everything, and I mean everything, changed. That wall was about to come crashing down.
So, in 1828, this chemist, Friedrich Wöhler, did what everyone thought was impossible. He took a basic inorganic mineral called ammonium cyanate, and all he did was heat it up. And by doing that, he rearranged its atoms into urea. Yep, a biological compound, the very same stuff found in urine. In one simple, elegant experiment, the entire vital force myth was shattered.
And Wöhler's experiment wasn't just some one-off fluke. It completely opened the floodgates. Pretty soon after, another scientist, Kolbe, made acetic acid in the lab. That's the stuff that makes vinegar sour. Then Berthelot came along and synthesized methane. The proof was just piling up. It was undeniable. The same chemical rules that govern rocks also govern life. And just like that, the whole field of synthetic organic chemistry was born.
Okay, so this discovery led to a much deeper question. If there was no magic spark, no vital force, then what was carbon's secret? How could this one single element, all by itself, build the staggering complexity of life, everything from a simple sugar to a massive, intricate protein? And the answer, well, it isn't some mystical force. It's actually all about elegant, predictable geometry. It's an architectural secret that we can actually decode just by looking at carbon's most basic properties.
So here's the bottom line. Carbon basically has two superpowers. First is something called tetravalence. Tetra just means four. It means carbon can form four super strong, super stable connections, all at the same time, which makes it the ultimate Lego brick for building molecules. And its second power is hybridization. And this is its truly amazing trick. It can literally mix up its own electron clouds, what we call atomic orbitals, to create custom-shaped connectors, perfect for building any structure it needs.
All right, let's really unpack that second superpower, hybridization. The best way to think about it is like a toolkit that lets carbon change its shape to perfectly fit any architectural job that comes its way. So what is actually going on here? Well, orbitals are just the regions around an atom where its electrons like to hang out. Carbon starts with a standard set, one nice, simple spherical s orbital, and 3 of these dumbbell-shaped p orbitals. Hybridization is really just the process of taking these standard shapes, throwing them into a kind of atomic blender, and creating brand new hybrid shapes that are perfectly engineered for building. And this blending process gives us 3 mini blueprints to work with. Okay, first, if carbon mixes its one s orbital with all 3 of its p orbitals, it gets 4 identical sp3 hybrids. And these naturally point to the corners of a 3D pyramid, a tetrahedral shape. Think methane. Okay, what if it only mixes one s and 2 p's? Well, then you get 3 sp2 hybrids, and they spread out into a flat triangular shape. We call it trigonal planar. And last but not least, if you mix just one s and one p, you get 2 sp hybrids, and they just point in opposite directions, forming a perfectly straight line. Now, here's why that mix is so incredibly important. The amount of that spherical s orbital in the final hybrid, what chemists call s character, has a real physical effect. Because the s orbital is closer to the atom's nucleus, the more s character a hybrid has, the tighter it holds onto its electrons, and that means shorter, stronger bonds. It's a direct cause and effect. And you can literally see it right here. Look at the electron cloud of an sp3 orbital. With only 25% s character, it's kind of stretched out and long.
Now compare that to the sp orbital next to it, which is 50% s character. See how its electron cloud is way more compact, pulled in tight to the nucleus? This tiny difference in shape changes a bond's strength, its length, and even how it's going to react with other molecules. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so we've got the toolkit, we understand how hybridization works. Now for the fun part. Let's put this knowledge to work and see how these simple rules actually build a real molecule. It's time to learn how to read the blueprints of life itself.
To do that, we need to get two more terms down, sigma and pi bonds. So first, the sigma bond. Every single covalent bond has one of these. I want you to think of it as the strong steel framework of a skyscraper. It's the tough foundational skeleton. But some bonds, like double or triple bonds, they have extra parts called pi bonds. These are weaker, more exposed connections. Think of them like the glass windows on the outside of that skyscraper.
Now, a pi bond does something really critical for a molecule's architecture. Because those p orbitals have to overlap sideways, above and below the main bond, it locks the atoms into a flat, rigid plane. You simply can't twist around a double bond the way you can a single bond. This rigidity is absolutely fundamental to the shape and function of so many molecules in biology.
And here it is. This is why pi bonds are so incredibly important in chemistry. Their electron clouds are just sitting out there exposed, above and below the main sigma framework. This makes them like a giant, flashing neon sign for other molecules that are looking to react. When it comes to organic chemistry, the pi bonds are almost always where the action is.
So, with everything we've learned, we can now look at any molecule and do a quick inventory, kind of like a building inspector. First, we identify and count the strong sigma bonds that make up the core structure. In this molecule right here, there are 10 of them. Then we look for those reactive pi bonds that are layered on top, and here we can spot 3, just sitting there, ready and waiting for a chemical reaction to kick off.
And here we are, the big payoff. We can now look at a really complex molecule like this, which just looks like a string of letters and lines, and we can decode its entire 3D architecture. We can see the flat, rigid sections built from those sp2 carbons. We can see the straight, rod-like sections from the sp carbons. And we can spot the flexible 3D joints made from sp3 carbons. All of a sudden, it's not just a drawing anymore. It's a predictable, three-dimensional machine with a job to do.
This is the real secret of carbon. It's not magic, it's not a mystery, it's just a precise, predictable, and beautiful architectural system. The simple, subatomic geometry of s and p orbitals mixing together is what dictates the shape of absolutely everything, from the elegant twist of our own DNA, to the incredible strength of modern polymers, to the design of the medicines that save our lives. Which really just leaves us with one final, big thought to chew on. We've just seen how a few simple rules of geometry allowed one single element to build our entire biological world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other fundamental blueprints of the universe are we out there right now just beginning to decode?